I would go to my car on my 30-minute lunch so overwhelmed. I think I wanted to quit every single day. I didn't like it. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you are new, thank you for clicking on this video, and welcome back if you are returning to my channel. I wanted to hop on here really quickly and tell you guys a little story time. Why I stopped working in a skilled nursing facility. If this is something that you are interested in knowing, if you are thinking about going into a skilled nursing facility or long-term care facility, and you're just curious about how it is, I'm going to explain my experience, why I left, would I go back, and what I am doing now if you're not familiar. So if you're interested in that, then let's just keep going. Let's talk. I got my LVN license in April of 2017, and I got my first LVN position in a nursing home. I did not work as a CNA previous, so I had no nursing home experience. I know a lot of CNAs go on to become nurses, and I didn't have that experience. I did have to get my CNA license as a prerequisite to getting my LVN, or to getting into my LVN program. So I did get my CNA license, but I never used it. And I was in a clinical rotation as a CNA student to do what they do, of course, and learn and get my CNA license for LVN. So I had no nursing home experience, and I got my first LVN position. I was trained on one cart. I was hired as a medication nurse. So what do they call them? A cart nurse. I was trained as a cart nurse. So in the facility that I was at, there was, I think, like 85 residents, and there were 3 halls. So each hall has a cart nurse, and there's 3 different shifts: AM, PM, and knock shift. I was AM shift. I started at 6:30 and I got off at 3:30. I had a 30-minute lunch, and you're supposed to take 2 15-minute breaks, which never happens. I was hired, and I had 1 week long of orientation, which included paperwork, policies, HIPAA, and watching videos, and how to spot negligence, abuse, reporting, all of that stuff. After my first week of orientation, I was going to be trained. I was then going to go on to orientation for the cart nurse position, where I would follow the current cart nurse for at least a few weeks, especially as a new nurse just graduating from my program. I would have wanted to be trained for like 3 to 4 weeks, or following this other person. So that didn't happen in my experience. I was oriented on this cart for, I think, maybe 2 weeks, probably not even a full 2 weeks. And that was coming in 4 days a week, because the the facility that I was at, we worked 4 days on, 2 days off. So say if you started on a Monday, was the first day of your rotation, you'd work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then you were off Friday and Saturday, and then you would start Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and that's just the way that your schedule worked. So you can kind of plan out your entire year if you know what day you start on, and then you'll know what 2 days you have off for, however long. But I started my 4 days on, my 2 days off, as orientating on this cart. They had me doing orientation on the easiest hall, which meant the people that were the current residents were, some of them were younger, some of them just had like surgery and were only there for physical therapy. Most of them would be leaving, so it wasn't the long-term care facility, the normal experience. And I understand why they trained a brand new nurse on the easiest hall, because you don't want to overwhelm somebody, and you kind of want to like get their feet wet and give them a good feel for what to expect. But when you train on a hall that is very light, and when I say light, this hall had like 15 to maybe 22 patients maximum to one nurse. That's very light where I worked. So I trained on this hall, like I said, maybe 2 weeks. And then when I went to my first shift on my own. I was put in a completely different wing of the building, and there was 32 residents to myself. Mind you, like, people can try and be helpful, and they're like, yeah, if you need anything, just ask, and, you know, you'll get it, go for it. You know, they try to pump you up, and they try to give you the confidence and stuff. But honestly, I think I cried like every single day for the first week. I would go to my car on my 30-minute lunch so overwhelmed, and I think I wanted to quit every single day, and I didn't like it. I did not like the feeling. I felt like I was failing. I felt like I wasn't doing a good job. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest with you. And it just wasn't a good feeling. I was really upset being put in that position, because when you train a brand new nurse in the easiest part of the building and then you throw them, it was literally the hardest cart. It was the hardest hall. It had all of the residents they literally had like 20 to 30 medications each. I had 2 G tubes. I had 32 residents. I had just like maximum. Like, nobody wanted to work this hall, and that's why they put me on this hall, which is so not safe. It's not cool. It's not safe at all. Like, it wasn't very responsible. I did learn. I like kind of being thrown to the wolves. You have to learn, like, it's sink or swim. And I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to be the new nurse who just gave up. So I toughed it out, and I think I worked at this particular building for like 2 years total. I went to a sister building, but then I came back to this building. So I think just being a new nurse, it was very scary. It was very intimidating, but I kind of got into a groove. Like I said, the first first 2 weeks on my own, I cried. I hated it. I felt like I was not doing a good job. I felt like it was just a lot, and it wasn't a good feeling. But I started to ask for help. But the other nurses, you know, they're busy too. They have their own patients and stuff. So they can kind of, like, if you have general questions, they can help you. They can't come pass your medicine for you. You still got to pump those pills out. You get quicker, get in a rotation, or you get in a routine, I should say, how to prioritize your patients, how to make your next day easier. So I would literally come home and plan out my morning shift for the next day. Like, okay, what should I do to make this easier tomorrow? And I would know how many diabetic patients I had. So I knew how many blood sugars I had to get, you know, right away in the morning before they ate breakfast. And then as soon as I came back from lunch, so that they could eat lunch, because you go in at 6:30, your lunch is like at 10. So they don't have lunch till 11 or noon. So I would know what patients had blood pressure pills that I needed to get vitals on, or who could I delegate to go get my blood pressures for me. I learned how to do things to make my life a little bit easier, but it was really hard. So my experience as a new nurse was probably just like everybody else's who is going into long-term care. It's a challenge, especially when you have that many people. Could you imagine taking care of 32 patients? If you have a fall, forget about it. There's so much documentation. You have to call an ambulance. You have to write a report. You have to monitor. You have to do... Did you get your iPad all wet?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hold on, I'll help you. There's just a lot to do. So I kind of wanted to do this video a story time type. So it's very rambly and probably unorganized, and I'm sorry for that. But this is just my experience as a brand new LVN, and possibly what you can expect, maybe things to do to make your life a little bit easier. So I quit working in long-term care because I was I wasn't overwhelmed anymore. Like I said, I had been doing it for 2 years, so I found a good routine, and I knew what worked for me to be able to get a good pass done. I was able to take my breaks and able to take a lunch and, you know, enjoy a few minutes at the nurse's station without freaking out and feeling like, you know, there's just so much stuff to do. I found myself a good groove. I did end up leaving long-term care though because of the hours in my facility. If the nurse that was coming to cover you, say, like I said, I worked AM shift, if the PM shift nurse doesn't come, if they called in for some reason, I have to stay. You have to stay on the cart until you have somebody to pass the keys to and give a shift report to. You can't abandon your patients. And in my facility, we were already short-staffed, and so this happened pretty frequently. I have 3 kids. At the time, I only had 2, but I knew that this was not something I would be okay with regularly. I have, you know, my 2 boys, they're in sports. Getting off at 3:30 is perfect. They would only be home for like maybe a half an hour. I wasn't missing much of them after school versus, you know, working a 9 to 5. I wouldn't see my kids till 2 hours after they get out of school. So we weren't missing much of each other. And my kids have sports, so I was able to take them to practice, and I was able to go to every game on Saturdays. Whereas working in long-term care, you probably get 1 weekend off a month. And if you are stuck on a cart, you can't leave because your kid has practice. So these were things that were deal breakers for me. If you're single, or if those are things that are not priorities for you, then it might not be a deal breaker for you, but it was for my life. So I left long-term care. That was the main reason, because I wanted to know that I was getting off at 3:30, or I wouldn't stay past a certain time. Like the supervisor would get somebody else to come cover, but it wasn't like that. It was like, well, you're on the cart, so you got to stay. It's not responsible for, you know, your employees or the residents that they're caring for. You get exhausted, you get burnt out, and you need that break, and you need to know when you're going to be able to get off and go home and pick up your kids, and you just don't have people waiting around for you at home. You know, your daycare provider, for example, maybe they have stuff to do after work. That was a deal breaker for me, so that's why I left long-term care, on top of the other things that I just felt weren't safe, as far as having so many patients to one nurse. It's not a good thing, but I understand there's a lot of residents and there's not enough nurses. So it's just the way it is. Some people don't like working in long-term care. I cannot say that I will never go back, because I can't tell the future. Being a medication nurse is something that now I'm comfortable with. I know how to set my day up so that I can get done on time and not feel overwhelmed. So I am not as intimidated by it now, but I would love to, if I have to work full time, I would love to have the Monday through Friday. I would like to get off sooner than 5 o'clock because I have kids, but beats the hell out of working weekends and holidays. So if you found this video helpful or informative, or if you have questions, please ask me. I do my best to respond to my comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and give it a like. It pushes the videos out for the YouTube algorithm, so other people who are looking for similar content can find it. And thanks for watching my story time. See you guys in the next video.